Hello and what's up coders, and welcome back to the next episode in the OSRS shop flipping series. Today's episode we're going to put all the work we've done together as well as create an OSRS Wiki client, and the end result is something pretty cool. We have used the item database from the OSRS API, cross-referenced that with the OSRS Wiki, and we've loaded in shop locations as well as create exchange prices. So we've basically got all the data now we need to find the best flippable items. So stay tuned and stick around to see how I do it. So I started off just doing a little bit of research using the Media Wiki API, just having a look at all the examples online and checking out the actual Media Wiki documentation. And then I wanted to see what command the actual RuneScape Wiki uses to list its shop locations. And you can see here there is a template command called store locations list, which allows you to pass through one parameter like steel arrow, and that will list out all the locations as well as the price they're sold and bought at. Once I was satisfied with the template and commands I'd need to use to actually interrogate the API for the shop location data, I created a quick Postman workspace which would represent the request I would use to extract all the shop location, pricing, and location data. As you can see here, I've got the result pasted into a HTML viewer, and this is what the API returns: a HTML table with links and all the various information that you'll need. Now, armed with all the research I need, it's time for the development phase of research and development. Now, we've seen all this sort of stuff before in the first episode, so I'll show you the interesting problems that this project presented to us. We had to parse HTML because the Media Wiki API doesn't return just an object, like a JSON object. Instead, it returns HTML to be viewed inside the wiki. And this is what that HTML looks like. So it's not as structured as JSON, but all the information is in there, so it is possible. Specifically, the information is in a table structure inside the HTML. So all we have to do is extract the information from a T-body using its headers and its cells. So I figured the best way to do this would be to enumerate the headers, extract their titles or the values inside them, and then skip the first row which contains the headers, and then use the headers to loop through all the rows and the cells in those rows and match them back to the header. In order to facilitate better programming practices as well as make it easier for me to test, I moved the HTML parsing code into its own class, and then I created a unit test which I passed through the HTML data and run through this new class to see if my code actually works before hitting the API. Using the unit test, I develop out the rest of the table parser, and as you can see here, we're actually starting to get something that looks like information that we can actually use. Now with a dictionary of all the values that are in that HTML, or all the useful values, it's just an exercise in mapping those values to the actual store location model, which I've developed and named all the properties myself. And ta-da! There we go. We've got everything mapped into the correct properties, all the useful information that we're going to need to fulfill the rest of our requirements for this project. Now back to the data warehouse project from the very last video. We're going to write a shop location consumer, which uses the wiki client that we just created to extract the shop location and pricing data. It'll take an item ID, which will be passed through from the item consumer. Just like the last project, we're going to map out the entity from the API client into the DB context with EF core. That way we can just query the store location directly from the API, add it to the DB context, and save the changes to the database. And I give that a whirl, and this is the data that comes into the database. Everything that we need. Shop locations, price data. Finally, this is all done. I can move on to something way more interesting, which is creating the front end, the website, the thing you've all been waiting for. So stick around for next episode where I do just that. But as a little treat for those who've made it all the way to the end of the episode, I wanted to show you some flippable items right now that we can find using a query to the database using all the different data sources that we've been picking up. All right, so at the Grand Tree, you can buy a cocktail glass for $1, 1 gold, and then sell it on the Grand Exchange for 97. Let's confirm that it is indeed picking up the right amount. Yep, so Grand Exchange, 97 coins, as you can see here. But we can buy it at the Funch's Fine Groceries for $1. Pretty cool. All right, what about something for members? How about the hammer? So a hammer, you can buy it for 1 gold. So 78 coins, the price is, yep, 78 coins. But can we buy it from a shop for 1 coin? We can at the general store in our grid. All right, one more. Well, lots of hammers. How about something a little bit different? Climbing boots. So we can buy that for 1 and sell it on the Grand Exchange for 697. So 697 Grand Exchange, and shop locations, 12 gold at Justine Stuff for the latest shopper standing. I think that's pretty cool. And all we have to do now is make that data I showed you look pretty, make it searchable, and you got yourself a pretty nifty tool. Anyway, see you later.